Surprise, folks. More and more wasps are circling my pretty Dutch head. I think there's a wasp nest, or they're starting to build something. Because it's the end of April, it's not summer yet, but I think they're building something here under the deck. So we're gonna be careful, and else we're gonna come back tonight when they're sleeping. We're on the ranch, folks. It's a nice sunny spring day on the ranch. We're gonna use the sawmill. It's an Alaskan sawmill, which for some dark reason I often call a Scandinavian sawmill, and nobody knows why. I bought the sawmill and I bought the rails that come with it. And it's not the original one. It's the Chinese knockoff brand Vevor, V-E-V-O-R. So what you get in the package is the sawmill, which you can mount your chainsaw onto, and rails, which consist of 3 parts. You can see, you can screw them together here, and then you got the pins. You hit them into the log, and then you got these small adjustment screws. With them you can level out the rails so that it's completely leveled. Small problems I had with this system was these screws, the leveling screws. They were vibrating out or in when I was using the sawmill because of the vibrations. So a simple solution was to put a nut on there. You adjust the leveling screws and then you tighten the nut so the screws don't vibrate anymore. So I adjusted the sawmill to get around here, because you have to pay attention that your saw, your chain, is not hitting the screws. So your first cut is always going to be under the screws. When you make your first cut, you take off the rails, you take off the top part that you just sawed off, and from then on you can just use the mill, because this is completely leveled and your mill just slides over the flat piece of log, which I'm gonna demonstrate in a couple of minutes. So I just filled up the chainsaw. Always make sure you fill up the chainsaw before you start. And my saw is a Steel MS-261 with my saw, and logs about this size. They're about 2 meters. That's about 7 feet long. I can saw 3 boards with a full tank. So always keep your eye on your tank, because when you have to stop in the middle of milling a board, you're gonna see it back in the wood when the chain stops, because the saw runs dry out of fuel. The height adjustment of the sawmill is done with these 4 screws. When you loosen them, this piece slides up or down on these tubes. I was looking for the right word. So it slides up and down, and since this part is sliding over the rails or over your flat part of your log, you can adjust the depth and width, that the thickness of the board you want to cut, or the beams. So that's the top part. You saw me using 2 of these wedges. I don't know if it's necessary, but I watch a lot of YouTube videos and some guys use these. You put them between so that the weight of the slice of the wood that you're cutting is not fully hanging on your saw. So it makes the job a little easier. Don't know if it's true. I use them. So when you look at the wood, it's pretty smooth. And the chain that I'm using is a self-made milling chain. What I did was I grind all the teeth in 10 degrees. So a normal crosscut chain is 30 degrees and I cut them all. I grind them all on 10 degrees. And then I leave 4, yeah, that's 4. Yeah, it's 4. I leave 4 teeth intact, and then I cut half of the width of 2 teeth. You see there's 1, 2, 3, 4 teeth, and they're intact. But this is not the right part of the saw. Let me show you again. 1, 2, 3, 4 intact teeth, and then we got 2 teeth where I cut half of the width off, and then you got 1, 2, 3, 4 intact teeth, and then again you got 2 half white teeth. And it goes around and around until you run out of teeth. And this is a 20-inch bar, so it's 81 teeth on the chain. You can do this. You can do this yourself. I bought the cheapest Oregon chain grinder out there. It was like 40 euros. That's about $40 on Amazon. And it works. You saw, it works. In my opinion, you don't need the expensive Alaskan Sawmill chains from Granberg is the brand or something like that. You can use them, but you can also use your own chains that you grind yourself. If Granberg wants to sponsor me, of course you only have to use Granberg chains. The cheap ones or the self-made ones, they're all crap. But that's only true if Granberg wants to sponsor me. So what you do next is you adjust the height of your sawmill to the thickness of the boards you want to cut. In my case, that's 3 centimeters. That's about 1 1/4 of an inch. And then you can start milling your boards. What I do on my logs is I put a little latex wall paint on them, so they don't dry out as fast and they don't start cracking as fast. So I'm gonna cut another board and I will show you on the video how it's done. So to make the first board, I'm gonna measure out the depth, the thickness I want, which will be 3 centimeters. And I'll take my leveler, because this is level. So just to be sure, I want to make this line level 2. Now I'm gonna adjust the height how high the saw is. Hey saw, are you high? Now you see, it will start sawing here and it needs to be sawn there. So I'm gonna lefty loosey the adjustment screws. I'm gonna adjust it to the marking I made because it's got inches on here and I'm working in centimeters. So I made a mark here at 3 centimeters. And that's the depth I want to have for these boards. So I'm gonna righty tighty the screws. And then I'm gonna first check if everything's okay. Now you can see the depth here is okay, but here the blade is hanging too deep, the bar. So I want to have it like this. So when it's at the right depth, I'm gonna adjust the screws here too. Adjust, tighten. You should always make a face like you're really working. A working face like your dad made. Something like this. Or something like this. Then it goes better. So, when you got that tightened, you're ready to go. What I always do is I let the saw warm up. So I start it and let it run for 5 minutes, and then I start sawing. That way the saw will hold longer. At least that's what they say. So that was part number 1. It's a beauty, isn't it?